There's a strange kind of fear that hums beneath the surface of modern life. It isn't fear of danger or pain or even death. It's the fear of being ordinary, of waking up one day and realizing your life didn't make headlines or history, that you never went viral, that your name won't be remembered by strangers, that your days pass like soft rain, unnoticed, unremarked. And somehow, this feels like failure. We live in an age obsessed with significance, where greatness is expected and anything less feels like settling. From childhood, we're asked what we want to be, not who we want to become. We're told to dream big, aim higher, be more. But what if being more is quietly killing our peace? What if the hunger for greatness is masking a deeper truth? That many of us don't actually want fame, just don't want to feel invisible. The fear of being average is not really about mediocrity. It's about the fear that we don't matter. Our life might not be enough. Our quiet joys and simple days don't count. So we chase noise, recognition, and metrics. We post, we share, we update, trying to prove we exist, trying to leave some kind of mark. We think if we're seen, we'll be safe. If we're praised, we'll be loved. But often, this pursuit leaves us emptier, because no amount of likes can fill the silence inside. There's a loneliness that comes from always needing to be more. A grief that grows when you treat life like a performance. What if we're not here to be impressive? What if we're just here? To live, there's no shame in ordinary. There's no failure in a quiet life. But in this culture, that can be hard to believe. You scroll through endless highlight reels. Everyone seems to be achieving, creating, building. Even rest has become a competitive sport. Who can rest better? Who can optimize joy? It's exhausting. It's not your fault you feel behind. The world has taught you that being extraordinary is a requirement, not a choice. That success is loud, visible, and measurable. But that's a narrow definition of success. It leaves no room for gentleness, for slowness, for stillness. It forgets that tending a garden is as meaningful as running a company. That raising a child in love matters more than building a personal brand. That you don't need to change the world to have value. You are not a failed masterpiece. You are a whole human being. You don't have to justify your existence with output. You are allowed to be, to breathe, to move through life like a river, not a rocket, to grow roots instead of chasing flight. The myth of specialness hurts us. It suggests only the few deserve peace. That worth is earned through achievement. But what if your worth was never in question? What if being alive was already enough? Imagine that you could wake up, make tea, sit in silence, and still matter. That you could live simply and still be complete. That you could fade from the algorithm's memory and still be real. The fear of being ordinary is rooted in disconnection. From self, from soul, from the rhythm of life. It disconnects you from what truly nourishes. Because ordinary doesn't mean empty. It means rooted. It means choosing depth over dazzle. It means finding joy in the unspectacular, and healing in the unnoticed. You don't have to impress anyone, not your parents, not your old classmates, not the strangers online. You don't owe the world a highlight reel. You only owe yourself honesty. Do you want to be seen, or do you want to be whole? The two are not the same. Sometimes, being invisible is where we remember who we are. No pressure to perform. No need to dazzle. Just presence. Just breath. Just life. And in its softest form, the world won't always applaud your peace. But that doesn't mean it's not sacred. Quiet life is not a wasted life. In fact, it might be the most courageous kind. The kind that resists the noise. The kind that chooses enough. The kind that says, I am not a brand. I am a being. You don't have to change the world. You just have to be here. That's already rare. It's already meaningful. That's already extraordinary, even in its quietness. You scroll past someone's highlight reel and feel behind again, not jealous, exactly just lesser, as if your quiet life isn't quite enough. We live in a world that worships the extraordinary, the loud, the bold, the dramatic. Make your mark, they say. Don't die average. And yet most of life is made of ordinary moments. A slow morning. The smell of toast. A friend who remembers how you like your coffee. There's no applause for these things, no medals, no press coverage, just a quiet sense of being alive. But we've been taught that ordinary means wasted potential. Being average is failure in disguise. So we run ourselves ragged trying to be impressive. But we trade rest for relevance, trade our weekends for personal branding, smile for the camera, even when we're falling apart inside. We're terrified of fading into the background. But maybe the background is where the beauty lives, where life happens slowly, gently, unfiltered. Think about the people you love most. Are they famous? Are they flawless? Or are they kind, dependable, quietly good to you? The best people are rarely the loudest. They're not collecting followers. They're collecting moments, a walk after dinner, a hand held during grief, the small, steady things that keep us human. The fear of being ordinary is not your fault. It's been sold to you in glossy packages. It's capitalism disguised as inspiration. The truth is, not everyone is meant to be a spectacle. Thank goodness. Imagine if we all shouted over each other forever. There's a kind of bravery in choosing quiet, in resisting the chase for more, in being content without a spotlight. You are not lazy for not wanting to be famous. You're not small for living a life off camera. You are not invisible just because you're not viral. You're not behind your own path. And it's not a race. It's a walk, maybe even a meander. Think of trees. Most are not redwoods. But even a small tree offers shade. Even a quiet tree still grows. We forget that being ordinary is a privilege. It means we're safe. It means we're not surviving chaos. For many, quiet is a dream. Peace is a luxury. And ordinary is a goal they never reach. You don't have to do something wild to matter. You don't have to build an empire to be worthy. You just have to show up to your own life, fully. The myth of greatness tells you to always push. But rest is resistance, too. Joy is radical. What if you chose enough over more? Chose being rather than proving? Chose love instead of legacy? When we make peace with ordinary, we become free. Free from the tyranny of constant comparison. Free to live instead of perform. Because life isn't meant to be content. It's meant to be felt. And some of the deepest feelings are quiet ones. Like sitting beside someone in silence, or watching the sun sink behind your street, or laughing over something no one else would find funny. No one claps for those moments. But they're the ones that hold us together. If you've ever felt small in a world obsessed with big, you are not alone. If you've ever chosen calm over hustle, that is strength. If you're living a quiet life, that's true to you, you are already winning. Your value isn't measured by visibility. Your worth isn't based on attention. You are already enough. Even if the world never notices, even if your name is never remembered, you matter right here, right now, just as you are, just as you've always been. There is no prize for being extraordinary, but there is peace in being present. And peace is a rare and holy thing. Maybe ordinary isn't something to fear. Maybe it's something to treasure, something to honor. A quiet life is still a life, a full life. One that doesn't need to be louder, just lived. Maybe your life doesn't have a highlight reel, but it has quiet mornings and kind eyes. It has late-night conversations that no one else will ever hear. It has your quiet laughter echoing off the kitchen walls. We often mistake attention for value. But something can be precious and still go unseen. Some of the most beautiful lives are invisible to the world. You don't have to move mountains to make your life matter. Sometimes just showing up each day with an open heart is enough. Caring for others quietly is its own kind of heroism. There's no shame in choosing a smaller, slower path. The world may not celebrate it, but your soul often thrives in simplicity. Your peace is not a performance. It's okay to not want to be exceptional. The pressure to stand out is often just disguised insecurity. What if you don't need to prove anything? What if ordinary isn't failure but freedom? The freedom to live on your own terms. The freedom to rest without guilt. The truth is, being ordinary gives you more room to be human, to make mistakes, to grow quietly without applause. You don't have to curate your life for admiration. You can just live it deeply and gently. In a way that feels true to you. We're taught to chase milestones, not moments. But life is made of small moments strung together like stars. They don't have to shine brightly to be real. You can find meaning in a quiet walk home, in reading the same book again, in making your favorite meal just because. These are not wasted hours. They are your life unfolding softly. They deserve to be honored. You don't need to turn everything into content. Not every joy has to be shared. Some things are more beautiful when they're kept. Your value isn't tied to how remarkable you seem. You are enough in your quietness. You are enough, even if no one notices. Ordinary is not a synonym for unimportant. Ordinary is the canvas of real life. It's where tenderness lives. You're allowed to rest in the life you've made, even if it looks nothing like the one you imagined. Even if it's slower, smaller, or quieter than others think it should be. Success isn't just about what you achieve. It's about how deeply you live and how gently you treat yourself along the way. There's courage in stepping away from the chase, in saying this is enough, in choosing peace over pressure. Some people will never understand your path. That's okay. It's not for them. Your life doesn't need universal approval. You don't need to be a brand, or a movement, or a revolution. You can just be a person, living, breathing, drinking tea on your porch, hugging someone you love, saying thank you to the sky. There's a kind of magic in living this way, in slowing down enough to hear your own thoughts, and not needing to narrate your worth to the world. Maybe the most radical thing you can do is stop performing, stop pretending, stop striving to be impressive, and instead start being whole, start being here, start being gentle with yourself. There's a quiet kind of bravery in that, the kind that doesn't ask for applause, the kind that doesn't need to be seen to matter. So let yourself be ordinary. Let yourself be enough. Let the world spin without needing you to stand out. You were never meant to be anyone but yourself, and maybe that self is soft, maybe that self is quiet, but it is still whole, it is still worthy, it is still alive with meaning, not because the world says so, but because you are here. And that truly is enough. You're allowed to live without spectacle. You're allowed to choose simplicity. You're allowed to love your life, even when it's quiet. Don't underestimate how deeply you can feel, even in stillness, even in silence. Your presence is not small. It is not forgettable. It is quietly radiant. You don't have to be amazing. You just have to be real. And that is more than enough. We're told we must shine or disappear, that to matter, we must dazzle, captivate, or break records. Anything less feels like fading into nothing. But what if being unseen isn't the same as being unworthy? What if quietness is not erasure, but presence without performance? So much of life happens in the shadows, not the spotlight. The meals cooked without applause. The conversations held with no camera rolling. The kindnesses no one tweets about. These are not lesser moments, or the fabric of real life. Yet we've been trained to overlook them. The spotlight rewards spectacle. It loves the loud, the fast, the extreme, but it often misses the depth beneath stillness. A child learning to read quietly on the floor. An old couple holding hands on a park bench. A friend showing up without fanfare. These things won't trend. They won't make headlines. But they are not ordinary. They are quietly extraordinary. We confuse fame with meaning, as if being noticed makes life more valid, but meaning often hides in the unnoticed. You don't need 1 million followers to be loved. You don't need a viral post to matter. You don't need a trophy to be worthy. Your value is not a performance. It is not something to hustle for. It is not earned through noise. Stillness is not stagnation. It is a different kind of knowing. It is wisdom without shouting. Many of us were praised only when we achieved. So we learned to chase worth like a trophy. We feared that slowing down meant being forgotten. But the people who love you for real don't love you for what you produce. They love you for your presence. They love you in your boring moments too. Rest is not failure. Simplicity is not a shortcoming. It's okay to live a life that doesn't impress strangers. In fact, that may be the freest life of all. One where your worth isn't a daily performance. One where you can breathe without branding yourself. Social media amplifies the pressure to be remarkable. Whispers, do more, show more, become more. But you are allowed to opt out. You don't have to prove your life is interesting. It is enough that it is yours. Fully lived, fully felt. Some of the most beautiful lives are never broadcast. They are slow, soft, steady. A life filled with ordinary joys. Tea in the morning, laughter in the kitchen, walks at dusk. These are not detours from greatness. They are it. You don't have to monetize your hobbies. You don't have to be the best at anything. You don't have to constantly level up. You can stay right here, in this moment, out in this life. Not climbing a ladder. Not rushing toward a finish line. Just being, fully. We are so used to pressure that peace feels suspicious. But peace isn't laziness. It's presence without panic. It's waking up without the weight of having to prove something. It's resting in the truth that you are already enough. Even if no one is clapping, you don't need to be impressive to be important. You don't need to be celebrated to be seen. You don't need to be extraordinary to be loved. Some days, just getting out of bed is an act of quiet courage. Some weeks, just surviving is enough. You don't need a highlight reel to justify your existence. Breathe, slow down, come back to the ordinary. Not as punishment, but as homecoming, as healing. The quiet life is not less than, it is just different, and just as valid. In the silence, you might find something you were missing. Yourself. The unedited, unperformed, honest you. Not who the world wants you to be. Not who your fear says you must become. But who you already are when no one's watching. The fear of being ordinary fades when you realize you were never ordinary to begin with. You were simply real. Real is enough. Always. The world whispers constantly. Be more, do more, shine brighter. But some of us are simply tired of the chase. Not from laziness, but from the soul's yearning for stillness. For a life unmeasured by applause or accolades, it's a quiet kind of rebellion. The courage to not chase every spotlight, to wake up without performing, to love without needing to impress. Yet we often fear this choice. We wonder, what if I'm just average? As if ordinariness were a crime. As if the only lives worth living were those that trend. But in reality, the fear of being ordinary is learned. Conditioned by a culture obsessed with winners, with viral posts, rapid promotions, curated feeds, with transformation stories that always end in glory. So when our story feels simple, we panic. We question our value. We wonder if we're falling behind. But there's no behind when there's no race. And there's no race when you step off the track. That's where quiet living begins. Not a fallback, but a choice. Not resignation, but presence. When you stop proving, you start being. When you start fixing, you start noticing. There's beauty in the mundane, in early morning coffee, in folding laundry with care, in listening, really listening to someone you love. These aren't failures to matter. They're quiet proofs that you already do. Still, comparison knocks often. You'll see friends promoted, awarded, celebrated. Their paths seem paved with gold. Yours may feel lined with gravel, but gold is soft. Gravel keeps you grounded. You're not lesser because you don't shine the same way. You're not a missed potential just because you chose peace. Stillness doesn't mean stagnation. It means rootedness. A quiet life can be full. Not empty, but brimming in gentle ways. A simple conversation that heals. A hobby that doesn't scale. A sunset that doesn't need a caption. You're allowed to savor those. To be content without being complacent. To grow without needing an audience. But even in quiet lives, the fear lingers, because we've been taught to quantify meaning. To tally followers, metrics, praise, but worth can't be measured in numbers. Worth is how kindly you treat yourself when no one's watching. It's how gently you love even when it's inconvenient. It's the patience you extend when you're tired. Those things won't trend, but they'll endure. There's a different kind of success, one not broadcasted, but deeply felt. The success of going to bed in peace. The success of not abandoning yourself for approval. Success of living a life that makes sense to you. It won't always be easy. Doubts will resurface. Insecurities will flare. Might wonder if you're missing out, but pause. Feel your own breath. Remember, the extraordinary is often built from ordinary days. Days where nothing huge happens. But you kept your word to yourself. You chose calm over chaos. You chose to stay. You showed up with gentleness. That matters. So don't underestimate your quiet life. Don't dismiss the peace you're creating. Don't belittle the love you give without expecting returns. You are not a background character in someone else's highlight reel. You are the whole story. And your story doesn't need to be loud to be meaningful. Ordinary isn't the enemy. Ordinary is the canvas. You, just as you are the art. Let that be enough. Let stillness be sacred. Let enough be enough. In a world constantly shouting more, your quiet truth is a soft, brave no. Don't. No to needing to impress. No to defining your worth by your achievements. And yes to rest. Yes to meaning found in the small. Yes to a life lived with intention, not inflation. Yes to being okay with not being everything to everyone. It's because you were never meant to be anyone but yourself. So what if your life never goes viral? So what if you're never on a list of top achievers? So what if no one claps when you enter a room? Some of the most beautiful lives are lived in silence, not because they lacked meaning, but because their meaning didn't need an audience. A quiet life is not an invisible one. It simply doesn't shout to be seen. It knows that value isn't always visible. That love often works in the background. That peace doesn't parade itself, and healing doesn't always make a sound. Still, the world will try to tempt you, with trophies, attention, loud applause, and some of those things are not wrong. But they are not everything. There's nothing inherently noble about being unseen. But there's something deeply honest about not forcing yourself to be more than you are. We forget that ordinary is enough, that an unlabeled life can still be a full one. There's no need to brand your existence. There's no need to monetize your peace. There's no need to prove your worth through productivity. You are not your LinkedIn profile. You are not your follower count. You're not your job title, your GPA, your tax bracket. You're someone trying your best to stay soft in a hard world. Someone who shows up even when it's thankless. Someone who holds space for others without needing credit. That is not ordinary. That is extraordinary in ways the world may never recognize. But your soul will. And that's who you're really living for. You don't need to become someone else's idea of special. You just need to be deeply, gently you. The fear of being ordinary isn't really about being small. It's about being unseen, misunderstood, unappreciated. But the truth is, you are seen. Maybe not by millions, but by those who matter. Maybe not in headlines, but in the quiet relief you bring into someone's life. You are felt, in the way your presence calms a room, in the way your words bring clarity, in the way your honesty allows others to breathe. That's a kind of success no resume can capture. So if you're afraid of being forgettable, remember this. The most meaningful moments are rarely remembered by crowds, but they echo forever in the hearts they touched. The bedtime story you read, the time you stayed when someone was falling apart, the morning you made someone coffee without being asked. Those things matter, even if no one writes them down, even if no one gives you a gold star. So let yourself let go. Let go of the pressure to stand out. Let go of the panic of being left behind. Let go of the illusion that louder is better. Choose the sacred over the sensational. Choose roots over reach. Choose depth over drama. Your quiet life can still be rich, full of wonder that doesn't post well, full of meaning that isn't measured, full of love that doesn't perform. What's so wrong with being ordinary anyway? Ordinary people raise families, tend gardens, heal wounds, soup on rainy days, cry in bathrooms, laugh over nothing, carry the world gently. That's not failure, that's humanity. Humanity in its quietest form is still breathtaking. So here's the truth you can carry forward. You don't need to impress to be enough. You don't need to stand out to be worthy. You don't need to hustle to deserve rest. You don't need to transform to be lovable. You are not a project. You are a person, a whole one. Right now, right here, you're already living a story that matters, even if it's quiet, even if no one claps, even if it never trends. Let your life be full of soft moments, of slow mornings, of deep breaths, of love that needs no audience. You are not ordinary in the way you fear. You are ordinary in the way that saves the world one quiet, gentle act at a time. This is quiet philosophy, where thinking isn't loud, and life doesn't need to be either. Subscribe if you haven't already, not for noise, but for something you can actually feel.